So I know certainly there was some big news for the Bulls organization this past week as they made their decision. They found their guy to be the next head coach. Thank God Jim Boylan is gone, never to return. And that is, of course, they went out there and brought in a notable kind of bigger name, which probably floors some of you. I know it floored me a little bit. I was surprised, to say the very least. The Chicago Bulls have hired Billy Donovan, formerly a two-time national champion with the Florida Gators in the SEC, and then late of the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he spent the past 5 years as their head coach. The Bulls have hired somebody that is a legit established NBA head coach that has enjoyed at least a little level of success as an NBA head coach. And I know the reaction of many Bulls fans is pleasant surprise and maybe even shock that this organization would go out there and actually get a credible NBA head coach. Not somebody's assistant, not somebody's failed retread or something along those lines, but a guy that has actually enjoyed some success at the NBA level as a head coach. Like, you're surprised. This is a big name, and they actually brought him in. They've actually hired him. And I got to admit, it surprised me too. Like, they certainly couldn't sit there and do the same type of crap again. They couldn't play it cheap. They couldn't, like, if you cared at all, if you're Reinsdorf and you've made these moves in your front office, like, you've got to go out there and swing for the fences. And I don't know that this is a home run hire necessarily, but it certainly feels like at least a good, solid ground rule double. Now, you also have the Bulls fans that probably aren't as high on this hire, and certainly have their reasons for cynicism or skepticism about it, based off of what happened in Oklahoma City with that team in the playoffs this year, and then just kind of looking at the tenure of Billy Donovan as a whole. And look, I understand all of that, and especially when you look at what happened in Game 7 against the Rockets. You know, that was not a good look. It was a team that was ill-prepared and ill-equipped at key moments and key spots and failed to execute. And while some of that falls on the players, some of that does fall on the coaching. I totally understand and totally agree. And you're also looking at this and saying, you know, this guy was in Oklahoma City. What did he really do? Well, I'll tell you what he did is he made the playoffs every year he was there. That's a start. His career winning percentage is over 60% as an NBA head coach. Certainly much better than what you would have expected out of recent Bulls head coaches. That's for damn sure. So you're talking about a guy, career winning percentage above 60% as an NBA head coach with 5 seasons there, and dealt with some roster turnover, some roster tumult during his tenure. First, the departure of Kevin Durant in free agency, leaving to go to the Golden State Warriors. Then you're talking about the acquisition of Paul George and the signing of Carmelo Anthony, which didn't really work out. And then you're talking, you know, to a degree, then you're talking about those guys are gone, and Russell Westbrook, the guy that's been, you know, there the entire time, now he's traded off to the Houston Rockets, and in comes Chris Paul, and you're shedding all these pieces, and all of a sudden you're looking at the Thunder coming into this season like, let's keep a little bit of levity here. Let's keep a little bit of reality and focus and scope here. The Thunder were supposed to be very bad. I think a lot of fans and media expected them to not make the playoffs and potentially be one of the worst teams in the league. So when you talk about from a pure coaching standpoint, you know, for a team that wasn't supposed to do a damn thing, the Thunder went on to win in a shortened season, mind you, over 60% of their games, and took the Houston Rockets to 7 games in the first round. Yes, they lost, and yes, that is something certainly Billy Donovan loved to do, which was lose in the first round of the playoffs. I understand that. But damn, if you're a Bulls fan, you'd probably even like to be back in the first round of the playoffs at all. At least that would be significant progress and growth. It would be something. I just can't understand. Like, to me, this is a perfect example of beggars can't be choosers, and people are always going to find something to bitch about. You can't please everyone. Like, you could literally bring Phil Jackson back and put on his staff guys like Pat Riley and so forth. Larry Brown is his assistants, let's say. Greg Popovich as an assistant. And freaking basketball people, Bulls fans, will be sitting there saying, how could these egos all get along? Like, how's this going to work? These guys, the game has passed them by in some cases. You get what I'm saying? Like, no matter what, people always be pissing and moaning and bitching about it. But damn it all. This, to me, if nothing else, the hiring of Billy Donovan represents an understanding and an admittance of the ways of the past are done. Do I believe it fully? No. But at least this is a good first step that says this organization might give a crap about winning again. This tells me that this organization might be trying to shake the past 2 decades plus of largely mediocrity to say, you know what? We want to experience some glory days again. And whether Billy Donovan ultimately ends up as the coach that delivers that, odds probably suggest no. But it is at least, damn it all, a step in the right direction. What are you going to do? Bring in somebody else's totally failed head coach or some first-time assistant that you don't know what you're going to get? It could work. It also could spectacularly fail. You've given Billy Donovan 4 years and $24 million. Like, you would have to stand to believe in a weaker Eastern Conference that Billy Donovan will find a way to make the playoffs at least once or twice in the next couple of seasons, wouldn't you? And wouldn't that be an improvement? And wouldn't that at least make you feel like the Bulls are playing relevant games again to some degree? You might actually occasionally see them on national television. You might actually hear some buzz and discussion about them. You don't get any of that. You don't hear any of that right now. Like, who the hell else were the Bulls going to hire that would make all Bulls fans really happy? That guy does not exist. And I get that if you don't get better players and you don't change the construct of that roster and you don't shake stuff up, nothing is going to matter. I totally and completely agree with that. That is a totally valid point. But even if you did that and you brought in a bum to be the head coach, see Jim Boylan, that's the definition of a bum-ass NBA head coach. Like, you could have a good team, which, to be fair to Boylan, he did not. But you could have a good team, but if you have a clown show like Jim Boylan running things, it ain't going to matter either. Like, this is the first significant notable move of this offseason for the Chicago Bulls and their new front office, their new regime. AK's number one job was to get a qualified, quality NBA head coach. And he has absolutely, completely, totally done that. Next piece is find the franchise changer at the 4th pick. They need a superstar there. I don't know if Billy Donovan could certainly be a guy that helps make that guy that you take number 4 overall into that type of piece. But you got to get that right. Like, that's the next key phase here. And then you start really thinking about remaking and revamping and overhauling the roster. But without the head coach, without the driver, none of this matters. And they got the driver. Like, we're talking about some of the X's and O's and some of the Thunder's execution in key moments in time. Like, for crying out loud. They took the freaking Rockets to 7 games in the first round. Yeah, they lost, but they still took them to 7 games. That's got to count for something, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yeah, like, I'm a little excited about this hire. I'm not going to go sit out there and talking about championships coming in 3 years because there are a lot of bigger, deeper-seated issues with this roster and especially this organization before anything like that could ever possibly happen. But for an organization that you could always talk about since the Jordan days has largely played small potatoes, that isn't willing to go out there and make the big moves, isn't able to close the deal and get these big-name guys, they actually did that for once. They actually went out there and got somebody that is a proven NBA head coaching commodity who has enjoyed success everywhere he's been as a head coach. Like, how could that possibly be a bad thing? Like, for all intents and purposes, you could make the argument that bringing in a Billy Donovan makes the Bulls a playoff team this next season. And again, that's not the end state, end goal, end of the day desire. The end state, end goal, end of the day desire is to be a world champion, period. Go to the NBA Finals, win the NBA Finals. Anything less than that long term is unsatisfactory, period. And I certainly do not want to buy into the mediocrity. But this is about progress. This is about steps in the right direction. And you could feel free to let me know in the comments what you think as a Bulls fan or just basketball fan in general about this Billy Donovan hire for the Chicago Bulls. While I don't think it is a truly landscape-changing or massive culture-changing and momentum-changing thing for the organization, I think it is a key moment. And it certainly is an opportunity to say that the first real big decision that the new general manager, new front office had, they went out there and got somebody worth a damn. That's got to represent something, doesn't it? So I'm on board with the Billy Donovan hire, plain and simple. I don't see why anybody would complain about this. Like, who the fuck else were you going to get? Really. He's about the best option you had. And by God, for once, the Bulls actually went out there and made it happen.